So why we are going back and learning this old concept, because uh, whatever you gonna write it, right, whether it is a REST controller or Spring Boot or microservice, whatever it is, the underlying architecture is still same. Okay, so what is the difference it going to make? Anybody can write REST controller, right? Anybody can write it. No need to attend my training to write a simple REST controller, to publish simple RESTful web services. You no need to attend this training. If you just go to any tutorial, right, MKN or any other tutorial, you just copy paste, then you are done with, right, done with uh, writing the RESTful web services. But the difference is going to make is the this training is going to make a difference. Like, you will understand underlying architecture, right? How the things are working, and any exception by looking into the console, you can clearly understand what is exactly went wrong. Okay, and especially the people who are not working in the microservices architecture, they have to do the hands-on, right? To remember all these things, they have to do the hands-on. At least if they are working in any real-time microservices project, for them it's very good. They can compare, right? Whatever they are doing in their daily jobs, AutoWide and all, they can compare. But for the people who are not working in microservices, at least legacy, and who wants to upskill, right? So they have to do the hands-on. There is no other way. Otherwise, you will forget all these concepts. Okay. Yes. Let's jump into the session. So today we're gonna talk fully about Servlet API. So this is not something new. Okay, this is already there since so many years in the Java market. Okay, so it's around 1990s, right? Around 1980s, early years of 1990s, this concept introduced. But before we jump into the servlet, let's spend a few minutes. What is the requirement of the servlet, right? So let's go back to 1990s. Okay, let's go back to the 1990s. So when the Java introduced, right? So so the applications were like only standalone applications, right? Like our mobile apps, right? Until you do update your mobile app, your application will be running with the old code, right? So there are some kind of problems we have with that model, because we don't have any centralized accessing, right? We don't have any centralized accessing, and we can't provide HTTP protocol support, right? So these kind of problems we used to have before this HTTP protocol was introduced into the market. So HTTP protocol is a kind of revolution in the WW world. No, right? So we used to get a centralized access. So you don't need to install any software in the client machine. You just have a browser, open the browser and send the request. So we will serve the response, right? Any kind. So that is what it was started with in 1990s. The world liked a lot. This protocol was booming a lot. So Java also wants to give support to this protocol. That's why they introduced Servlet. Okay. But before that, we will spend a couple of minutes. What is this protocol, and what are all the methods are there? What is the status meant to be, and how we gonna send a request to the server from the browser, and what is the standard, and how the server will send the response back to the browser, and what is the standard, right? And there are different uh, standards we have for request and response, and we have different status code, different methods. Okay, and as a microservice developer, right, you should have remember few status codes, right? By looking into the status code itself, you should say what is the error. You don't need to debug the code, right? For example, 415 HTTP status 415 method not support, right? So by looking into that error code itself, you should say what is the mistake we are doing and how we can rectify that error, right? So these kind of things, like around 10 to 15 status codes we have, which every developer has to remember. By looking into the status code itself, we should say what is the error, or what is the mistake we are doing, or what is the error which is happening, right? So that is what we will learn in the next fast, like 10 to 15 minutes. Then we will jump into servlet. So HTTP actually a protocol, right? This is not specific to any technology. HTTP is actually a protocol. which got introduced in 1991, I believe. So I don't remember the exact year. Let's go to the Wikipedia. Okay, so yeah, it's introduced in 1991, around 29 years ago. This protocol was introduced, and still we are using the same protocol because this is the most widely used protocol, most powerful protocol. Only the thing is, the versions are getting changed now. In the market we have HTTP 3 protocol available. So when they introduce, they come up with like HTTP protocol 1.1, which is 1999. So I think the initial version is HTTP some 1.0. So that is what is the first version they introduced. Okay. Yeah, 1.1 introduced in 2014, I believe, right? 1997 they introduced, and there are some issues, and finally it got stabilized in 2014. And HTTP2 introduced in 2015. So the very latest is HTTP 3. It introduced in September 2009. I don't know whether all the browsers are supporting this HTTP 3 or not. At least now we are using HTTP 2 protocol. Okay, HTTP 2 protocol. Java 8 has extreme support for this HTTP2 protocol. They introduced a separate folder itself, package, right? HTTP2 package, and Java 8 supports HTTP2 extreme. Yes. So, so this is a simple protocol, hypertext transfer protocol. So to connect client, right, to transfer the data between client and consumer and producer, and client and server, we use this protocol. So we have some other protocols also like TCP, right, TCP and SSH, right. So there are some other protocols are available, but HTTP is the most widely used protocol in the world. Okay, so whenever you are sending, yeah. So this is what which you have to remember. So when you are preparing, when you are forming a protocol, right, URL in the browser. So it's usually like HTTP is a protocol, and colon slash slash is the separator between protocol and actual request. So the first one is the domain. Okay, so some kind of domain like localhost or google.com or en.wikipedia.org. So that is what is the domain meant to be. And we can also specify the port on particular port, the on what particular port the application is running, right? So you can understood the things in this way, it will be little better. Okay, so you do write, you application wise, you do write something like this, right? HTTP localhost. Yeah, so which means, so this is the protocol, and this is the separator between protocol and the actual URL. So when you say localhost, which means where the application is running, right? So we are specifying the application is running on my machine, current local machine. That is what is the host name. So in the real time, when you are making a DB call or some third-party service call, so this local host is going to be replaced with a different host, or you can specify IP also. What is the default IP of localhost?
8080.
127.0.0.1, right? Yeah, so this is equivalent to localhost. So every machine will have a host name, domain name, or some IP address, right? So localhost is equivalent to 127.0.0.1. Either you can say 127.0.0.1 or localhost, both are same. And on my machine, there are so many processes would be running, right? So might be some paint, some running on some process, Eclipse is running on some process, my browser is running on some process. So I should specify on my machine on what particular port my application is running. For example, server, right? So Tomcat server will be running a default port 8080, right? The default port is 8080. So here we are specifying on what particular port the application is running, right? So the 8080 is meant to be a port where the application right? Run. So for example, if you would like to connect it to a database, it's not supposed to be an 8080, right? It's supposed to be the port number where the database is running, right? So that is what you have to remember. So host name followed by the port number where the database is running if you would like to connect it to a database using HTTP protocol. Yes. Then after this, right, after giving 8080, right? So till now, till where we reached? We reached till to the server level, right? So first in this network, we first pointed to my machine, right? My computer. Inside my computer, there are so many processors are running, right? Inside my computer, there are so many processors are running. So next we pointed to a particular service. What is that? Server Tomcat using 8080 port. So till on my machine, there are so many processors are running. We pointed to a server, right? Inside server, there can be n number of applications can be run, right? Like I can run 10 applications, 20 applications. I want to point to a particular application, right? I want to point to a particular application. Then each and every application which is running on the server will have a context path. Okay, so that is what is the separation between the application to application. So if your server is running 10 applications, then you have 10 different context path. So here you need to specify what is that context path. Okay, what is the context path? You have to specify. Okay, so you need to specify what is the context path. So it is possible to deploy multiple applications in one server. So you have to specify what is that particular context path. So the request is navigated to that particular context path. Inside one application, you can run multiple resources. So now we are learning service servlets. So inside one application, you can write multiple servlet applications. So you have to specify servlet path so that we will be going to a particular servlet in the application, right? Inside my application, there are multiple servlets would have been running, right? Servlet 1 and servlet 2. So which servlet you want to point it? So servlet path will decide. Okay, servlet path will decide. So inside this servlet path, we will have a particular method. So that is what is the resource mapping, right? So that particular method will run, it will give us particular response. So here we need to give request mapping. So which method will execute the particular, which method will serve the response to that particular method, right? So that is going to be mapped through request mapping, right? So till now we drill down, right? In this entire world, we came to the machine by using localhost, right? This is the machine, and in my machine, multiple applications would have been running. We would be pointing to a particular application by using port, right? Inside that particular application, there are multiple sub resources would have been running. We will point to a particular application by using context path, and inside one application, there are multiple servlets, right? Multiple servlet. Each servlet is a class. So we will go to the class level using servlet path. Inside this servlet path, there are multiple methods would have been there. Which method is going to serve the response is going to be answered by the request map. Is going to be answered by the request map, right? So now we'll drill down till method level, right? So this is my, so this is the machine. Yes, which is nothing but host name which we gave in the URL. So this is the application which is running inside that particular machine. Will be resolved by using port number. But each application will run in a different port. So if you give port number, it will go and point it to that particular application. So that is what is use of port number. Okay, so inside that port there are multiple applications would have been running. So which application you want to execute it, that is going to be resolved by the context path. Inside that context, right, there are multiple Java files, right? There are multiple .class files. So each .class file can be considered as a servlet. So which servlet is going to give the response is going to resolve by the servlet path. So inside servlet, there are multiple methods would have been there. So which method will give the response is going to be resolved by the request map. So on top of that, if you would like to send some data, For example, you want to send some data using query parameters, right? So that query string starts with a question mark, and each data we send in a key value pair, right? Key value pair. So it's a key and value. Okay, so if you want to send multiple keys, it's going to be key one, value one. How the data is going to be separated? Each pair is going to be separated by an AND operator. So it's going to be key to value two. Okay, key to value two. So this is how we send the data from the browser to the server. Browser to the server. So this is what is the URL formation, right? So when you are typing some URL in the browser, right? So going forward, everything we gonna type like browser or Postman. So every time we start with HTTP localhost. So when you, instead of giving localhost, if you are running application on some cloud, that cloud IP you need to give. Okay. Inside that, if your server is running on any particular port, then that port number you have to give. Okay, and inside that server there are multiple applications would have been running, but in microservices, right, once one server will run only one application. That's why context path is optional, right? So you might get some doubt going forward. So we don't use context path because in microservices, right, it should run individually because every server will have only one application, right? So that's why we don't have context path. If you would like to give context path, you can give, no doubt at all, right? No problem. But in the older applications where we run a server installing on a machine and running application, we used to have context path. Okay, and servlet path, inside that application there are multiple servlets would have been there. Okay, so that's why the servlet path we use. Okay, request mapping, for sure you have to give which method we has to be executed, then some data you are passing. Okay, so that is what he's talking in the browser, right? So how is the URL formation? Okay? So protocol, host name, port, where the application is running, then context path. So this is not specific to Java terminology. That's why he is saying path, right? So path is a combination of context path, servlet path, and request mapping. Context path, servlet path, and request mapping. So these three, right? So these three will be considered, yeah, context path, servlet path, and request mapping. These three, this combination of these three is called as a path. Okay, yes. Then if you would like to send some data, if you would like to send some data, that is going to be a query string. So query string will always start with a question mark, and internal data will be separated by using an operator. Okay, and on top of that, if you would like to send some fragment, it's going to be some hash separated. Okay, in one page particular um, uh, in one window, any particular fragment you would like to load, right? Like we have this ash in the React JS and Angular JS, because single page applications, any particular fragment you load there, we use it. Okay, so this is a generic terminology, that's why we are using it. In Java we don't use the fragments. Okay, in Java we don't use the fragments. Yeah. So this is related to Angular and React. So HTTP protocol is not specific to Java language. That's why he is covering everything here. Okay. Yes. So this is all about history, when it got introduced, what is the first version 0.9, and later they introduced 1.0 in 1996. Right now we have 3.0. I think it's released on 2018. Okay. And there are some methods are present. Okay. Very, very important request methods. Okay. So based on this methods only, we will understood what operation we're going to perform, right? So we have multiple methods are available. Right? There are so many methods. Okay, we don't need to learn all this. There are four major, right? Very, 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 very major are four. So we will learn only those four first of all. Okay, but there are so many methods are available. Yeah. So we'll start with the get method. Okay. So we focus mainly on these four. The remaining are there, but not that much commonly used. Okay, but HTTP has so many methods. HTTP protocol has so many methods, and but every server, right? So Java will run on a server. For sure, all the servers will support these four operations, HTTP methods. We cannot guarantee that all the HTTP methods will be supported by the server, right? So there are so many methods are present in HTTP. So we cannot guarantee that all the servers will support all the methods. So to know which what are all the methods are supporting by the server, you can call these options. So you will come to know how many methods are supporting by the server. But for sure, this five will be supported, and head also completely optional. These four are very important: get, post, put, delete. Get, post, put, delete. So we will spend some time on this four APIs. So going forward, right, whenever I'm writing a get method, post method, you're not supposed to get confused why I am using that method and what is the difference between these four. Okay, so first let's start with the get. Okay, so knowingly or unknowingly, every person in the world who is using an internet, I think most of the people, right, like at least in India, we have 130 crore people. So how many people are using smartphones these days in out of all these 130 crore people? Any idea?
What, 50%?
think 70-80%.
Yeah, most probably, because one of the service provider in India, Jio, what is the customer base of Jio? Any idea? Like around 1 year before or 2 years before, they crossed 30 crore. Their customer base already crossed 30 crore, like around um, uh, 2 years before itself. It's almost equivalent to US population, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge, very huge. Yeah, so one customer, one service provider itself is having 30 crore customer base. I'm for sure, like everybody, like 130 crore, like around 110 crore or minimum 100 crore. Yeah, 100 crore people are using mobiles, no doubt at all. Okay, 100 crore people are using mobiles, but we don't know the exact count how many people are using smartphones, right? Because like there are few people who doesn't know how to operate, and still there are few people are using the old mobiles. But for sure, like around 70 to 80, 70 to 80, 70 to 100, or 80 to 90 crore people are using smartphones. Minimum 50 plus. I can guarantee you that minimum 50 plus crore, right? Yes. So in India itself, it is 750 crore. Across the world, we have 700 crore people, right? 7 billion, right? It's like 700 crore people we have in this world. So can somebody guess, like at least like 300 to 400 crore people are using, right? Minimum 300 to 400 crore people are using smartphones these days. Knowingly and unknowingly, all these people are sending get requests on daily basis. Even you would have sent some thousands of get requests. Some people would have crossed lakhs also. Okay, some you would have completed like thousands. Personally, you would have completed thousands get request submissions till now. Okay, so why do we submit get request and how do we submit? What is the use case and how do you submit? In your life till now, how many links you would have clicked? I believe thousands of links you would have clicked, right? As a software engineer, Googling, searching, so you would have been completed so many links submitted, right? So a link is nothing but like go to Google and just type some HTTP protocols, and Google would have displayed some information, right? So each is a link. Each is a link. So clicking on each link, which is nothing but you are submitting a GET request to the server. Okay, it's not the same server, so it depends upon the service provider. The request go to the particular server, but it's fine. But in a client perspective, clicking on each link, any link, right? Hyperlink, HTML hyperlink protocol. So clicking on any link which sends, the browser sends a GET request to the server. So you would have, I believe, at least you would have completed some thousands link submission till now. So each link click is a GET request. Okay, each link click is a GET request. So in this world, how many people would have been clicking links on daily basis? right? So some millions, right? Every day, some millions of requests, get requests are serving. So without get requests, this world cannot survive. Do you accept or not? Without get request, HTTP get request, so there is no, I mean, this world can't move 1 minute forward, right? So there are, per minute there are some thousands of requests would have been submitting across the world, right? So knowingly, unknowingly, so there are millions of requests which are getting submitted on every minute basis or hourly basis to the servers in this world. Okay, so every link click, any link, it can be a newspaper reading a link, any link, right? You just open that HTML syntax, it is going to be a simple HTML anchor tag. You just open this element, it's a simple HTML tag, right? Anchor tag, you just expand. Yeah, I send a get request accidentally. I send a get request. So let's go to so all these links, everything is a get request. So each get request, which is nothing but a hyperlink tag. Okay, so there is some script written, so you click on this. So this anchor tag, right? Ahref, so which is nothing but a get request goes to the server, right? So all the links on the browser, whatever you are seeing, is a get request. So you just click, a get request will be sent to the server, right? So this world is full of get requests, right? So this world is tightly coupled with full of HTTP get requests, and knowingly, unknowingly, till now we would have completed so many, like thousands of get requests to the server. So going forward, every time you clicking on a link, you have to assume, oh, I'm sending a request to the server. What is that request? Get request, right? Any link you click, hyperlink anchor, HTML hyper anchor tag, right? So that is a HT get request we are sending it to the server. So that is one of the way. This is one. I mean, this is not only the way. This is one of the way you can send the get request to the server. Okay. And the next way of doing it is typing any URL. Right? Typing any URL on the browser address bar. Right? So we are sending a get request, right? Sometimes we do remember URLs, right? So facebook.com, spring.io, right? whatsapp.com, whatsapp.com. So some URLs we will remember, and you type it manually, right? So I used to do this for a couple of times. So every time I type the URL and click enter, so we are sending a get request to the server. Okay, so this is another way of doing it. But the difference is in link means the link is already created, you are clicking in it, it goes to a browser. It's like a browser itself automatically sends the request. Here we are manually typing and sending the request. But anyway, this is another get request we are sending, right? So this is one of the way. So anything you are typing in the address bar, especially in the Google search bar, you type it automatically sending a get request to the browser, right? Sending get request to the browser. And another way of doing it is HTML has a tag, form tag, right? Yeah, HTML has a form tag, right? So when you want to submit some form, right? Sign up, sign in, right? These kind of forms you can submit to HTML. So that form without method attribute, the people who has UI code written, right? They will understand this, right? HTML, so some form, right? Every time you go and sign in, right? For example, um, uh, go to some site where it asks for login or sign in, right? Let's go to Stack Overflow, right? Or GitHub. Yeah, go to GitHub. It asks you to sorry, I already logged in, so just let me sign up. Yeah, so this form, right? So this form, this is some HTML form. Right? You just go and see the HTML syntax. So it should be some form tag. Yeah, see, this is the form, right? I hope everybody would able to see, right? FORM, form tag, and method is post. If you don't specify method post, so by defaultly, this is the get request, right? By defaultly, this is the get request. So form without method attribute or method equals to get will be one of the way, right? Without method or method equals to get. Okay, we're going to send a get request to the server. Get request to the server. So these are usually the clients used to do. So mostly like non-technical guys. So we are technical, right? So we do send get request, right? So we do use some clients, HTTP clients. Example, Postman, right? So from client you do send some HTTP request. Example, Postman. So this is also one of the ways. So example I'm saying Postman. There are so many clients are available, right? REST clients. So from Java you can send HTTP requests. From .NET you can send. From Angular you can send. Angular has a separate particular module, HTTP module. Right? From React you can send. From jQuery, JavaScript, there are n number of clients we have to send. I mean, in technical clients we have to send HTTP get request. So I'm simply covering Postman. Postman. So Postman is a software you have to install, right, to send the HTTP request. So we don't use browser. So we do use Postman going forward. So you just install the software. Go to Google and type Postman. So just it will a link. I mean, it's a click link. You just install that Postman software. Okay. So this is one of the client where we can send HTTP request explicitly. So you can have some control, right? Header parameter you can pass, some body, some external configuration you can do. So as a technical guy, you do use this, right? But this is not only one. There are so many things. Even Java, through Java you can send HTTP request. From Spring you can send, from jQuery, from Angular, from React. So there are so many things out there, right? Native JavaScript also you can send. .NET will send PHP. So there are so many things out there. I'm just telling you one example as post. Right? So there are so many ways you can send get request, and this is the mostly widely used HTTP request over the world. Okay, but it has few drawbacks. We will come to know what are all those drawbacks and what is the alternative, what is the solution. So would you able to follow me? Give me yes.
Yes, Sunil.
Don't feel bored, guys.
Yes, sir.
It's very important, going forward, right? In future, you're going to log into the Facebook, right, from the browser. So many times you would have been doing this. So every time you type some Facebook, right, something, you should understand, okay, I'm sending a get request, right? Going forward, you should classify yourself which request you are sending it to the browser, to the server, sorry, from the browser, which request you are sending it to the server. So going forward, you should classify, oh, I'm sending get request, I'm sending post request, I'm sending put request, right? So you should classify. So minimum, that is a basic funda, right? Any engineer, IT engineer should know what HTTP request you send, irrespective of the technology, Java, .NET, PHP. Forget about that. This is a common thing which gonna happen across all the technologies, right? So now let's see what are all the challenges we
Sunil,
have.
yeah. So
Yeah.
we can use the curl command, right?
Yes, curl command also. That comes under HTTP client, right? So example Postman. Yes, you can use curl command, etc., etc. Okay, so those are all I'm just putting in a single statement, because there are thousands of clients are available, right? We can't go around those things. Yeah, curl command also another way of like Postman sending, but this is one client. This is another. Yes, curl also HTTP client. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So there are few drawbacks you have. Okay. There are few drawbacks you have. The first big drawback is when you send a GET request, right? So there is no body to the HTTP request. So the entire data has to be encoded in the URL, right? Entire data has to be encoded in the URL. So we cannot send all the data in the URL, right? Sometimes let's go to some e-commerce site, right? You do some personal searching. So you don't want to show that what you are searching on the URL, right? So that is not a good practice, right? Or else you are logging into some account, Facebook or WhatsApp, especially banking. Okay, Facebook account and all, okay, fine. But if you are logging into some banking and if your username and password is getting visible here, for example, um, due to security reasons, I'm just stopping the recording, but I'll show you the real kind of problem. I think yes. So this is not a good practice, right? So all the time we can't expose all the details in the URL, right? So we're gonna lose some security, right? So the first problem is when you are sending a GET request, the only way we send the data through URL. Okay, so when it is through URL, all the details, right? For example, username also and password also is appended in the URL, so anybody can read it. So it is like security problem, right? So all the time we can't use get request. Sometimes we need some security, so we don't use get request, especially logging and profile creation, right? Logging and profile creations, so those scenarios we don't use get request. And when this is URL encoded, right? So the data is URL encoded. So when the data is URL encoded, you can't send huge data, right? So there is some limitation is there, right? Up to some MBs you can send some data. So so we have some data limitations, right? Because URL cannot be some MBs, right? Cannot be some MBs. So it should be some KBs, right? So you have some data limitation, and you can send only the text data, right? Only the text data. You can't send any image. You can't send upload video. You can't upload audio, right? You cannot send any other data format. Only text format is required. Only text format is required. So only the text formation way we will send the data to the server, right? So that is a fourth limitation. Okay, so these are the limitations we have, right? Still we do use it, the get request a lot in the world, where you no need to send the security data, right? Login or authentication and all not required. As I just want to do some, for example, you go to any e-commerce site, right? So that is common this place, right? Common this data. You login or I login. Somebody logins from Silicon Valley. Somebody logins from a village in India, right? So they will display the same data, right? So same data. So where is security not required, and we will send the data, very limited data, to the server, and we will send the data in the only text format. So those are all the cases we use the get request. So the main use case to use the get request is when you want to retrieve information. Okay, when you go and retrieve some information from the server, right? So retrieve information from the server, not sending the information. I want to retrieve, right? When your intention is not sending the information, retrieving the information, then we use get request, right? So any e-commerce site you logging in, you just retrieve the data from the server, right? You just retrieve the data from the server. So all the products you are seeing on the aws.com or flipkart.com, all are get requests only, right? Where you want to retrieve some data, right? So no security required, no data limitation. I mean, we don't send the data. So our URL should be a short format, right? URL should be a short format. So there we use get. So when you want to fetch the information, retrieve the information, get the information from the server, you use get method. Use HTTP get method, and there are so many ways you can send the get method, and there are few limitations also here, right? Some drawbacks, right? Some drawbacks we have with the get method. The first drawback is every data which you send it to the server through URL, there is no request body. So every data you send it through URL, it's a URL, right? So the data is not secure, and some limitations we have, and you can send only text file, only text file. So to overcome this problem, we go for HTTP post method. Okay, so this is the next widely used method in the world, post method. So where you need some security, right? Where you need some security, and you want to upload some huge data, videos, audios, files, right? Some huge data, and it's not a text format, not only text format, any other format, then we go for post method. So are we clear with the get method? Any questions? Right? Any questions, guys?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. Yeah, just have an idea. I will be covering like 100%. If you get 20 to 30%, also fine. This is not an interview question. It's like a concept. You are learning some concept which is not going to be changed for like next to 10 to 15 years, right? So this is introduced 20 years before and still the same concept. There is nothing changed and it will still remains for next 10 to 20 years. If you like, if you learn this concept, it's useful, right? It's useful. So you will understand the things very fastly and very easily. Right? So this is all about HTTP GET request, nothing related to Java. It's like a different thing, right? So yeah, so next go to the next method, post method, right? So this is next widely used concept, okay? But before that, I want to show you whenever you are sending a request to the server, right? So this is consider your machine. From here you are sending some request to the server, right? So every time you send a request to the server, that is a HTTP request, and that request is going to be in such a format, right? Because server should understand what information you are sending and what HTTP protocol you are using, right? So server should understand. So every time when the browser sends a request, not only browser, any HTTP library, right? Any HTTP library, it's a Postman or anything, any client who is using HTTP API, right? Whenever he sends a request, he should follow some rules and regulations, right? Finally, he should prepare a request in this format. You know, there are three sections are present in the request. The first one is the request line. Okay, in the request line, there are three details we'll be sending. One is what HTTP method you are sending, and the second one is what is the request URI, and the third one is what HTTP protocol the client is using. Okay, so these three details will be present in the first section of HTTP request. That section we call it as request line. If you want to take it a note, you just note it down. Okay, request line. The first part is request line. Again, that is classified into three categories, where the first section tells what HTTP method we are sending. Second section tells what is the request URI, and third section tells what is the HTTP protocol we are using. Okay, and the second section, the HTTP request, is HTTP header, right? Request header. So you do send some information, right? So what is the data you are sending, and how much data you are sending, and what is the client you are using? Okay, and you there are some information you send it. So every time you send a request to the browser, right? So this is the request. You just open that request. You will see some request headers. So yeah, so these are the response headers. Let's scroll down. You will see some request headers, right? So some information we are sending. So what type of accept request header tells to the server what type of content we're gonna accept, right? So this request accepts only HTML response, and it will also support zip format. And what is the default language, right? English, and how the connection type. It's a keep alive, right? The connection open, right? Connection open. Some cookie information also we are sending, and what is the host name, right? And what is the referral, and what is the client we are using, right? Mozilla 5.0, right? Chrome 81, right? So what is the client we are using? Mozilla 5.0, Apple WebKit, and it's a Chrome client, right? Some data, some metadata, we send it to the server. So here we are actually not telling content type. So what is a content type? Which means what content type, which means what data we are sending it to the server. Accept means what data the client accepts. So what data the server, what format the server should send the request. Content type means how, in which format the client is sending. Accept means and which format the server should send, right? So there are some header parameters we use to pass. Some security you would like to provide, we will put it in the header and we will send it. Okay. Whenever we are talking about Spring Boot security, we will try JWT token. That token we will put it in the request header. If you don't understand this now, then you will get confused over there. Okay, so every request, it's a put, post, delete, trace, head, all the requests will have request header portion, no doubt at all. Okay, and you can send some data in the header section. Okay, then some request will not have request body like get, head, right, head, get. So for those request body won't be there. Any data you want to send, that should be part of URI, right? So that should be part of URI here. But some methods like post, put, delete will have request body available. So you can set the data in the request body, you can set the data in the request body, right? So you can set the data in the request body, so that won't be visible in the URL. So let me open the Postman. I don't know whether you noticed this or not. You might have used the Postman for a couple of times. Okay, it will take a while to get it open. Okay, so let it open in the background. But meanwhile, so you just remember, get head will not have the request body. Any information you want to send, that should be part of your request URL. Okay, request URL. Yeah. So it's loading. Okay, so these are the things you have to remember. Every browser, every client who uses HTTP API, they should send the request only this format, then only any server can understand. Okay, then only every server can understand. Okay, let me open this. Yeah, you just focus here, I'm just going to open a new request. So when the request is get, right, when I click on the body, when I click on the body, right, you cannot send any body tag, right? So even though this is enabled, so you cannot send any body, right? You cannot send any body, right? Especially the raw tab, right? So somehow this is working in an unpredictable way. Usually when I select get, this section itself will be fade out. Okay, this section, the body section itself will be fade out, because for get request there is no body. For get request there is no body. So this section will be enabled only when you, from the drop down, you select post, right? See, there are so many HTTP requests: get, post, put, patch, delete, copy, add, options, link, unlink, purge, lock, unlock, um, prop, find, view, right? So there are so many requests are there, but we don't use all. We mostly focus on get, post, put, delete, get, post, put, delete. Okay, so there is a request type head, right? Head. So which means we're gonna get only response headers, right? Response headers. So this is head is a part of get. Head is a part of get. So head is already available with get. So if you enable get, head will automatically support it. So head means only header section we're gonna send it, and we're gonna get only response headers, not that complete response. Okay, head is a part of get request itself. If you just enable get, head will be automatically supported. So every client, whether it's a Postman, Carl, Java, HTTP API, .NET, PHP, jQuery, JavaScript, Angular, React, browser, whatever it is, so they will send the final request format in this one. In this format only, they will send a final request. Okay, so there are three sections. First section is request line. Again the okay, again the request line will be classified into three categories. First one is request method, HTTP method, what method we are sending. Second one is a request URI. Third one is a protocol. And next section in the HTTP request is the request headers, where we send some metadata. And for some HTTP request body is available. So for some HTTP request body is not available. For example, get, there is no request body. Any information you want to send, it should be part of request URI, right? Request URI. So this is what is the template of request, HTTP request. Yeah. So how we have a HTTP request, right? So there is some uniform, right? Every person who send it from the request. For example, you have so many browsers are available in the market, right? Chrome, IE, Safari, right? And Firefox, right? So there are so many browsers are available, right? Especially in the browser section itself, there are so many browsers are available. So we need this standardization, right? Otherwise, if everybody is sending a different format, then server can't understand the request. So that's why this specification, this standard got introduced. Whoever sends the request, they should send only in this format, right? Similarly, whoever is going to serve the response, the server, whoever is going to serve the response, they finally should give the response in this format only. Okay, if you're really good with the HTTP request, then format, HTTP response is pretty easy. Wherever you call request line, request header, request body, the same thing. It's like response header, response line, response header, response body. So again, the response line is classified into three categories. One is what protocol the server is supporting and what is the code, right? Whether it is a success, failure, some code, HTTP status code it will return, and some message, right? So this code and message are like key value pair. So each code will have a message that will be displayed over. And some response headers, what is the content they are sending, and which format, some HTML format or text format or JSON format or XML format, and what is the length, right? How much, what is the response size they are sending, right? So that length, and what is the server which is going to serve that response, right? So there is some huge information will be available in the response header. So it will be useful for the browser to use that. For example, if they send HTML, so it's going to be rendered by HTML engine, DOM engine, right? So that's how the details will be sent from the server, and the actual response will be present in the response body, right? Response body. If you just go to the browser, you type any request, Facebook, Google, GitHub, right? Any request. So you just have see some response, right? It's failing to load because we send the wrong request, right? So yeah. So if I just go back to the world and just refresh, okay, clear the filter, clear all, and I just submit sign in. You see some kind of error, right? Now you go to the actual site, login, right? So you will see some response available, some error response, right? Some error response. So this response is this section, right? So whatever the response you are seeing here in this browser, so this is part of this response body, right? Sometimes you do get some JSON data, sometimes you do get some XML data. So every information you get it from the server, it's going to be present in the response body. I'm not talking anything related to Java. It is irrespective of the technology. So the server, right? It can be a .NET server, PHP server, right? Some other web server or Java server, right? In Java itself, we have so many servers: Tomcat, WebLogic, Sphere, JBoss, Glassfish, right? There are so many servers are available. Whatever the server, right? So finally, when they give the response back to the client, right? It's for example a browser. They should prepare the response in this template, and all the time the response body will be there. And in the response body, we will have the actual response, and in the response header, some metadata. What is the format they are sending? What is the size? Right, so that kind of information they will put it in the response headers, and in the response line again classified into three sections. What is the HTTP protocol, and what is the HTTP status code, and what is the HTTP message. Okay, and this message and status code, they are like key value pair. Each status code will have a different message, right? Different message. So this is all about request and response, right? Irrespective of the technology. So all the clients should send in the request in this format only, and all the service providers should send the response in this format only. Okay, then only the client can understood. Okay, so every response will have headers, body, request line, headers, body, request line, some metadata. What is the protocol? What is the status code? And what is the response? And some headers, right? Headers and some response body. Okay, so when you go to the post, you have the request body available, right? Request body available. So you do submit post request, you do send the data in the request body. So you don't send the data in the request URI, right? Whatever you gonna put it in the request body, that won't be visible, right? Any login, right? Any login, anything. So you do send it, right? So if it is using a HTTP client, you do specify what is the request you are sending. If it is a browser, HTML, then the only way of sending HTTP post request is form tag with method post. You just open the form tag, form tag. So you always see this method post. So any browser you are submitting, any Facebook login, Facebook account creation, Gmail login, Gmail account creation, GitHub, anything, mostly like sign in or sign up, right? So sign in or sign up, profile creation or logging in will always done with the post request, because those details not supposed to be exposed in the URL, right? So we do give some URL, username and password. So there is a request will be submitted to the client, right? How the request is going. So I gonna clear this. Okay, so you do see there is a post request goes. Okay, I gonna clear everything as soon as you submit. Okay, there is this request will be submitted, right? Session. So you just expand this, right? What request you send post request. What request you send post request. And whatever you the request you send it, right? So there should be some request bodies, right? This is the form data you submitted, this is the login username and password, but it is not visible in the URL because you have in the HTTP request you have some section called body. So the data will be kept in the body and send it to the server. So little secure, it's not like fully secure, but at least the details won't be visible in the URL. Okay, so this is the next highly used data. And the use case to use the post request is posting the data to the server. You send some data, right? So you send username, password, you send your profile information, uploading the data into the drive, Google Drive. Can be a file, video, audio, and you can send any format. Okay, you can send any format, not only text, and you can send huge data also. Okay, so we have certain limitation, but it's like huge, not like kbs. It's like some gbs you can upload, up to some mbs you can upload. But this is enough, right, for us to upload any file. That any file uploading into the Google Drive, any file uploading, in photos uploading into the Facebook, right? Those most probably done by the post request. Okay, so when we use the post request, when you want to post some data to the server, right? So when you want to upload some data to the server, when we use post request. So in our daily basis, you would have been using this for so many times, right? Facebook logging in, Facebook profile creation, right? Any site logging in or profile creation, mostly done by the post method, because those details not supposed to be exposed in the URL. That's why we do follow post method, right? So how many times you would have been logging into Facebook, right? Facebook, Gmail. So every time, when you go to Gmail, it should be, I already logged in into the Gmail. That's why I would have been navigating directly to the account. But like if you just try log out and just try login, right? You just try login, then you do see, right? I'm accessing my material through Gmail account. That's why you do see some. I mean, if I log out again, I have to log in to access this file. I don't try that, but I will try any other option like. So just I go to add another account. So it will try to log in this time. But you just see this form, right? You just see this form. Use another account. Yeah, whatever the form you are seeing here, it is a post form. You just press F12, okay, functional key 12 to open this window, or else you just try inspect, Control Shift I, right? Right click on the browser, right? So how I am opening this below window is just like inspect. The window shortcut is F12. Yeah, you just see it should be some form. Otherwise, they would have been handling this through some script, Angular, right? So these people introduced Angular. They would have been doing this through Angular, like they submit some HTTP request through Angular script. So that's why you would have been not able to see the form tag here. Yeah. So, but anyway, it's okay. They will collect this tag details and submit HTTP request through Angular. It should be Angular because Angular itself is it's introduced by Google, right? So of course they would have been jumping to Angular. Okay, fine. So that's why we are not able to see the form tag. So some headers they are putting. It's fine. Yeah. Yeah, let's come back. Any form submission you are doing, it should be HTTP post request. Okay. So it's all, yeah, this is all about HTTP post and get. So put we use to update any data, right? Like profile, you want to change your username, password, mobile number, right? So it should be like HTTP post. So we go for updates. Update, we use put method, and you want to delete some information, right? So then we use HTTP delete. Okay. HTTP delete request. Most widely used requests are get and post. Get and post. Get is the most commonly used HTTP request. Like unknowingly, every person in this world who uses internet who would have submitted get request at least for like hundred number of times, right? Like who uses internet in their day-to-day life, so they would have been submitted get requests unknowingly, like like thousands, right? We would have been already crossed some lakhs, like 2 to 3 lakhs till now we would have submitted. We are using internet for so many years, right? So who is using very rarely, they would have been submitting like thousands or hundreds. Okay, so this is all about HTTP get post put delete. Okay, and yeah, this is what is all about request template and response template, right? Whoever sends the request, they should send in this format. Whoever is going to serve the response, they should send in this format. Okay, yes, so this is all about request template and response template. So there are few status codes which we have to understood, very important. Okay, every request you send it to the server will give a response and it will give some status code also. Okay, status code also. So somewhere here they would have been talking that this is all about history, session state, authentication, some blah blah blah. Yeah, so these are the methods. These are the methods. Okay, yeah, so you see get no body, head no body, post will have the body, put will have the body, delete no body, connect no body, options no body, trace no, right? But every request, right, will have the body, response body other than head, right? I already told head will give only header information, head will give only header information, but all the methods will have the response body all the time. Okay, and get is safe, head is safe, post is not safe, right? So that is next topic. So every time you get the same information, that's why it's safe. Every time you send the head, you get the same response, that's why it's safe. But post, put and all, you go and update something, right? You create the profile, update the profile, delete the profile, that's why they are not safe. So we call this an idempotent. So if it is safe, it's obviously an idempotent. But so idempotent is nothing but we do change some state server side. So some are idempotent and some are not idempotent, and some cacheable. Some request you can cache, right? So you just check. Every browser will have some cache. So it's like HTTP cache mechanism they're gonna use. So you do have some caching, right? Every time you just, how many times you would have been typing Facebook, right? You just type FA, automatically populating the remaining details, right? How? Because it's just because of caching, right? Every time you send a get request, if the URL is new, then it will cache it for some time, right? So some space will be allocated. So based on that space, the memory will be, that those details will be stored. So if the cache overlaps, right, the old data will be deleted, new data will be stored. So these are the standards, RFE, some standards, right? So it's purely related to network. We don't need to focus more on it. Okay, yeah, some status codes we have. Some status codes we have. Every response you send it to the client, send from the client, server will give some status code. So if it is 100 to 200, there's some information related. 200 to 300, 299. So which means you got your request is successfully processed. So 300 to 399, some redirectional. Okay, yeah, our favorite is 400 to 490, right? Any mistake you do in a client side, that should be part of 400 to 499, right? You do type the URL wrongly, you get 404. For example, you just go to browser and type, instead of typing Facebook, right, you just type some extra, then you will see 400 status code, right? Yeah, so it went into some other, somebody bought this domain, that's why it's coming here, right? So you just type some wrong URL, so it goes to you, obviously goes to some 400 error, right? So any URL mistake you do, you get 400 error. And if you send the request data, right, request wrongly, then you get 400, right? If for example, your request is going to served by HTTP post method, you are sending a get request, then you will get method not supported. For example, your request is going to support only post request and you are sending a get request, right? You will get 415 method not supported error. And sorry, there is something wrong. 415, I believe, um, metadata not supported. So there is some extra link available. So it will be little clear, right? Under 200, there are so many, right? 200 okay, 201 created, 202 accepted, right? 204 no content. All these are successful. So 302, 301 moved permanently, 300, 302, some redirections related. So 405 method not allowed. 415, it's like unsupported media type. Okay, when you see 415, which means that unsupported media type, not method not allowed. So for example, your application supporting JSON data and you are sending some XML data, some text data, you will get 415, right? That the data which we are sending is not in a correct format. So 405 means method not allowed. If your request is served with post request and you are sending some get request, so you will get method not allowed. So all 400 related errors, client side mistakes, right? So client sending wrong URLs, client sending wrong method, client sending wrong format, right? Data in the wrong format, and client sending wrong request badly. So all 400, right? Whenever you see 400 plus error, so you can simply say, hey, like your service provider, for example, your service provider, right? So somebody is consuming your service and you see the some 400 error response, right? Somebody is coming to you, hey, I'm getting 404, 400, 415, right? You can simply say it's a mistake at your side, was you correct it according to the service specifications. You just correct your request, then you will get the correct response, right? But you can't say when you see 500 error code, right? 500 to 599. So which means, right? Which means there is something went wrong at server side, right? You have to check at URL, right? So 500 internal error. So any exception which occurs at server side, if it is not handled properly, right? So it will be a 500 error. Any exception, null pointer exception, indirect out of bounds exception, any exception, class not found exception, no class not found error exception, right? Illegal argument exception, illegal state, any exception, if you not handle properly, then server will return 500 error, right? 500 error code. So it is not a good practice to return all the time 500. You must implement exception handling mechanism. Exception handling mechanism. You get some null pointer exception, right? So then it can be 500. But when the client sends the data in the wrong format, for example, you are writing some matrimony site, right? So minimum age is 18. So for example, somebody trying to create profile with 15, instead of throwing 500 error code, you should say clearly saying that, okay, this customer doesn't have proper age to, right? Proper age to register in our matrimonial site, or else you are developing some voter card kind of renewal, right? So you must check the age, right? So minimum 18 years he should cross. And if he wants to get married, right, some marriage certification site you are working on it, then he should cross 18 years. I don't know exactly 18 or 21 in Indian, as per the Indian rules. So you should check that number. If he is not touching that, then you should go to some other category, right? So those kind of things, you should provide a proper exception handling to handle those scenarios, right? So 502 bad gateway. So something went wrong at server side, right? Whenever your application connecting to the database and so some gateway connection issues coming. So some internal to the server, and some 503 service unavailable, right? So especially when you are using application servers in microservices, you don't get mostly 503. Whenever you are using application servers, WebLogic, WebSphere, you do deploy the server application, but you don't start. So that time you do get 503. So any 500 related, it is something went wrong at server side. 400 related, which means there is something wrong with client side. So 100 means some information related. 200 to 200 to 299. So these are all success. Different ways we will say you are successfully done, right? We successfully processed your request. The most commonly given success status code is 200, but in the world, most commonly seen error is 404. Right? In server point of view, most commonly seen status code error is 500. Right? So these are very commonly seen. One is a 500, right? One is a 500. Let me make it bold. One is a 200 successful processing, 200, 404. Okay, resource not found. It's not URL not found. Resource. So which means you are typing URL wrongly. Okay, so these are the most commonly seen status code in the world. Every day in the world, there are millions, like I could say billions, right? Billions of requests would have been serving with these strict status codes. 200, 500, 400, 404, right? So there are millions of requests will process every day with the status codes. Okay, so by looking into the status code itself, you should say as a developer, you should know, at least you remember this status code, right? 400, 404, 415. So somebody comments said that I am getting 404 error. You're not supposed to debug that. Immediately you should say the URL you are sending is wrong. Please check the document which we published, right? The URL which we sent, which we sent and which we published and which he is sending, both are not matching, right? So it's not a service provider issue. It should be verified by the client side. For example, sometimes you do consume the service, right? You do consume the service. That time you should make sure you're using the proper URL, right? That time, whenever you are a service consumer, and you should not ask, hey, check URL, your URL, then who has to check? You are a consumer, you are sending the request, right? So you have to check what is the URL you are sending. So producer, at least you should blame somebody, but at the time of consumer, you cannot say that saying somebody has to check the URL. It's you, right? That somebody has to be you. It's your responsibility to check that URL. Okay. So this is all about HTTP protocol, guys, right? So this is a normal terminology, normal status codes, normal request template, normal response templates, normal HTTP methods we use as part of our day-to-day life. This is nothing new, right? This world is using this, right? No Java, no technology, non-technical guy who is using a smartphone in this world, right? Who might be working as who is working in a sector, right? Government sector. Somebody not knowing English, right? Somebody clicking on a link, daily logging into Facebook and all, clicking on a link, some status, right? Something he's doing. So he's sending some HTTP request. It can be a post, put, delete, trace. Every transaction which is happening over the HTTP protocol should happen through this request. Okay, world can't survive without HTTP protocol. You can't even imagine. Okay, you can't even imagine without HTTP protocol the world is surviving. So when this much when this protocol has this much popularity, then Java should support it, right? If Java is not supporting HTTP protocol, nobody would have been using Java. Okay, so Java is going to support HTTP protocol by using Servlet API, right? So Java has its own API standards for HTTP protocol support. So all the HTTP requests should be served through HTTP servlet, servlet API. Okay, HTTP servlet also there. We will discuss later, but usually it's a servlet API. So all the requests which are coming to the Java, all the HTTP requests should be served through the servlet API, and the servlet API gives HTTP response in the same format whatever we discussed. Okay, so without this API, right, Java would have been not this much popular. Okay, this looks very small. You just open this, you will see only 2 packages. It looks very small, but it's very powerful. Okay, again, why we are learning core Java? We can directly would have been learning this, right? Servlet API, because servlet API, servlet, all these are classes, interfaces, static, public, right? All the class loading mechanism, memory allocation, right? All these things are still present in servlet API. So without that, you cannot write any servlet, right? So servlet is a simple interface. So what is interface? Go and learn in your Java SC program. Don't come and ask while writing HTTP protocol, right? Protocol specific code you are writing. If you ask what is interface, then you should go back and check what is interface. If you know already interface, class, public, abstract, static, method overloading, method overriding, right? Those fundamentals, if you know, then only you should come to the next level. Okay, so to write a servlet API, the prerequisite is Java, right? So without knowing Java, you can't come and write. I mean, you can complete it, you do copy paste or something, but you can't understand the things in the proper way, right? So what is a method signature, how to pass the parameter, how to return, right? What is the return type, right? Throws exception handling, all those things already should covered in Java SCA, right? So anyway, so nothing related to Spring, but when we go to the Spring, so this is the next level, you go to the next level, right? Spring Boot MVC is built on top of Servlet API only. There is no Java, no servlet, then no Spring Boot, no Spring Boot MVC. Okay, you might not write your servlet, right? You don't write the servlet, but you use an existing servlet which is written by the Spring people. Right? You use existing servlet which is written by the Spring people. Anyway, it's the same story, right? Whether it's a Spring Boot MVC, Java Servlet API, .NET, PHP, whatever it is, whatever we learned this concept, right? This is a common concept. Okay. Yeah. So anything you're trying to do, Anshuman? Did I give you any right access or what? It's showing your image. Hello?
Yeah, no, I don't have anything.
Okay. Any questions, whatever we discuss? I know it's little boring today. This concept is like that only, but it's good to know, right? So it's a prerequisite to jump into the Spring Boot MVC. Without all this, I can teach you, but you can't understand like few things, right? So that's why I'm covering all these things.
But something is coming, I don't know why.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I will check. It might be some right access. You have something else. I will check that. Okay. So any more questions?
So I opened that servlet, na? Might be that's why it's coming.
Hmm. I will share this documentation with you. Okay. Yeah. So any questions? Whatever we discussed today. I know it's a long theory concept. We will stop for today because little more theory is there. Okay. Little more theory is there. Like what is the API? What are all the methods are there? Then with this like 10 to 15 more minutes, then we will jump into writing our first HTTP servlet. Everybody, right? You might think I'm writing microservices. It should be controller, REST controller. Why should I need this? Don't think in that way. You must start writing two hands-on, right? Get some exceptions, something. Then yeah. But anyway, going forward, you don't write servlet for sure. You do write only controller, REST controller only, right? Only controller, REST controller only. But you should have an idea what is the life cycle and what is the architecture, what is happening, right? You know, from browser you send a simple request, right? And there are around 10 to 15 steps are going to be executed in the background, right? Server will perform 10 to 15 steps. You should have knowledge like what exactly is happening in the background. So you must know all those things, right? We will learn, we will complete all those things. Especially the servlet lifecycle is very important. It's like extension, right? First we will learn servlet lifecycle, then we go to Spring MVC, then on top of servlet lifecycle, Spring does something. Okay, on top of some servlet lifecycle, Spring adds some extra features, right? Some like you prepare biryani and adding some extra uh, um, flavors, right? On top of that, you do some makeup, like some spices you are extra adding. That is what Spring does. And Spring Boot, you go, it has some more spices, right? So that's why everybody is eating Spring Boot biryani, not servlet biryani, because it's like without spices. So we didn't need more space, more taste, and more automation. That's why you go to the Spring Boot. But again, its underlying architecture is still same, right? The servlet architecture is still same. They didn't change anything in with respect to the servlet architecture. First, one platform, which is a servlet. On top of that, Spring MVC add some more layer. On top of that, Spring Boot MVC will add the same one more layer, right? Everything you learn it in Spring Boot. It's the same thing, right? It's like especially now we are working learning MVC. So it's a core will not change, right? The core Java core will not change. On top of that, they built, right? They built Spring Core. So these two things will not change, right? Autoware or dependency injection or container and all will not change, right? So these two will always be there in every module. Right? Now we go to module specific, right? Now we are in a stage of learning MVC, how we're gonna handle HTTP requests, right? How to send a request and how to get the response, how to give the response. All those things we learn MVC. So the core is servlet, right? On top of the servlet, so there is something is going to be added by the Spring MVC. Okay, so there are some more layer added by Spring MVC. So the underlying architecture is still servlet only. On top of that, Spring Boot is going to have one more layer. Okay, so because Spring Boot is easy to start, kickstart with any RESTful web services or any SOAP web services, right? So that's why we are directly jumping into the Spring Boot, but underlying architecture is still same. Okay, you believe or don't believe, every request which is going to be served by the Spring Boot MVC, it will start from a servlet only, right? It all starts with a plain HTTP servlet. Okay, so that's HTTP servlet with respect to Spring is dispatcher servlet, right? It's a plain servlet, but it was implemented by Spring people to take care some of the things. So like go to the next level, next level, next level. But whether you write a Spring Boot MVC full automation, right? Functional or annotation, whatever it is, the starting point is a plain servlet, right? Which is dispatcher servlet, right? So when you open dispatcher servlet code, it looks something like this: public class dispatcher servlet extends, right? Directly or indirectly, it may not be direct. Sometimes it might be some other servlet, right? So if you really open the code, it is like framework servlet. Okay, you see actual framework servlet, and this framework servlet is a child of HTTP servlet. Okay, so you do see some kind of things, something like this. Public, maybe abstract, I'm not sure, you need to check. Extends HTTP servlet, right? So either directly or indirectly, so your dispatcher servlet is a child of HTTP servlet. So HTTP servlet is nothing new. This is there in this world like for almost like 20 years, right? So whatever the class which is introduced 20 years before, still your latest today you are writing something which is very 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 latest, right? The same HTTP servlet only going to be served, right? So all this public, abstract, class, extends, all this part of core concept, right? So core concepts, still we do use Java core fundamentals, right? Without Java we can't write any class, any interface, anything, right? So business logic you can't implement. So Java still has its own uh, player on, right? It is going to play its own role, right? So Spring Core, right? AutoWide and all will be using a lot whenever we jump into the first microservice. You do understand, right? Why we learn Spring Core instead of directly jumping into Spring Boot, right? So so the things were a little different. Okay, but anyway, yeah. So this is all about HTTP protocol and the methods it supports, and how the request looks like, and how the response looks like, and what are all the different status codes we have, right? So this is all about HTTP protocol. Till now we didn't talk how Java is going to support HTTP protocol, how it's going to take the request and how it's going to give the response, right? From Java, if you wanted to send HTTP request, how do we send it? So those things we will learn from tomorrow. Any questions? What's up? It's full of like pin drop silence, we do see.
No questions, Sunil.
The
Yeah,
bad,
yeah.
Sunil, bad gateway. This error usually when it comes 502.
For example, you are connecting to some database, right? So database, it has some issue, right? So you do get from your Java applications, you connect it to the database over the network, and some connectivity issues you see, somewhere you get bad gateway.
Okay, okay.
So is it clear to everybody? Chintesh, Sharad, Abhi, Jega, Madhu, Vijay. This is not nothing. This is not new, right? So this is there since so many years, and who is working on IT, right? They should already know it, right? So this is something new, and I can guarantee you might be working like since so many years. Like you would have learned something new today, right? How we are sending get request, and all. At least you would have been learn something to know, right? Yeah. Any more questions? Any questions do you have before wind up the session?
No, sir.
Yeah. So Sunil, like I have a one doubt actually.
Yeah.
So this cross origin exception, this will occur like yeah, like so
Yeah.
whenever I use Postman,
Hmm.
so I will miss out like so what is the like a difference between calling a get service from the browser and calling a get service from the Postman?
It will be same, but the only problem is so sometimes the client enables cross origin or not. So that time it will throw an error. Usually you will get a cross origin error whenever you are requesting from a different host, right? For example, your application is running somewhere and your client is somewhere, right? So these two are two different hosts, right? So that time what will happen? Your server should support this cross origin. So whether the request is coming from the same host or different host, we should always give that. Yeah, we have a topic in Spring Boot how to enable that cross origin. So it's a postman has to is sending some parameters in different way. Browser is sending some parameters in different way. So that's why
Okay.
we are getting that error.
Yeah. Okay, sir.
Okay, and sometimes in your company what will happen, you connected to that intranet, right? As soon as you log in into the system, your browser will automatically take that single sign on, and it takes you to different urls, right? But when you try it from postman and all, you have to do an explicit authentication. Okay, so browser has an inbuilt support to take care this single sign on and all, but postman and all can't do it. So if you get some error in the postman, you have to check that authentication details also.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Yeah. So yeah, don't get confused, guys. Don't worry. I can guarantee you, without understanding all these things, you can still write the microservices. But the only difference is, if you understood all these things, you understood the microservices architecture very well way. And if any exception you are getting, then you can understood what is exactly, you can visualize, right? So some kind of visualization you can do when there is an exception comes. And when you send the request, if you understood all those things, if you just close your eyes and you just can visualize, right? Like graphically you can understand what exactly is happening, right? From the browser you send the request, so server do some navigation and some process is happening, some servlet life cycle. Those things you can visualize, but without that visualization also you can still write the microservices, no doubt at all, right? So when you are not able to understand, don't be panic. Try to understand in your own way. Go through the recordings for a couple of times. If you are able to understand, it's good. If you're not able to understand, don't be panic. Just go through the recording for 1 or 2 times, and you are still not able to understand, still it is okay. The things will be clear once we jump into the microservices. And whenever we are writing the microservices, then you will come to know, right? The dots will be connected over there. So don't be panic, right? If any session is not understanding, don't worry. Just park that session aside. You can just add that back to whenever we write our first microservices, then the dots will be connected for sure. Okay, so don't be panic and don't skip the sessions. If any session you are not understanding, at any session you are really mess up, it's okay, that's fine. You just go to the next session and continue your journey. And whatever the session you are missing, you just spend some time and go through the recording for one more time and just do the practice. And still you are not able to understand, still it is okay. You can still provide microservices. That time you try to understand this concept, right? You just mix these two with the example and the concept we are discussing. Example, today we are talking about http sessions. If you are not able to understand, don't be panic. You just attend the sessions. When we write our first microservice and when we send our request from the postman, then you come back and see, right? Sometimes that time I will show you really what is 404, 400, 415, 405, all these others I will show you. That time you go back to the session and you just revise the session. It will be understandable only. Okay, so the dots will be connected at the time. Don't worry. The concepts we are discussing, If you are not able to understand, still it is okay. Don't get panic or don't get confused. Right? And don't skip the sessions at all. Okay. If 1 or 2 sessions you are not able to understand, fine. You still continue your journey. For sure, you will understand these concepts when we are writing our first microservices. Okay. Any more questions, guys?
So Sunil, that course thing, right? Which just now, yeah. So it is like if we are putting any restriction on the action, and still the client is trying to do that, then only
You
we
will
will
get,
throw that
yeah,
error, right?
server will throw automatically.
Yeah, because suppose it is allowed to do only post, but we are sending a delete or put request. In that scenario, it will
No,
be
no, that time you don't get cross, you will get 405 method none.
unsupported. Okay, also that time you will get unsupported. I think.
Cross means it's related to the host completely, right? So some servers will not allow serving the response if the request is coming from a different client, right? So different host name and all. So you need
Okay,
you need to enable the cross origin support. Yeah, we have a
okay,
separate slide for that. We will see one error and we will solve that
sure,
issue also.
sure, sir. Okay, sir.
Yeah. And any more questions?